Make no mistake with these documents. These documents will spell out how to do a measurement, and will walk you through the process of how to do the measurement, and then it will have a place for you to actually write down the specification that you've now found on the instrument. It will tell you how to go about doing it. Every step is laid out. It's laid out in a linear fashion, and it talks about how to do each one of the steps. And if you have any doubt about how to do it, you can go back in the document and find a place in the document that tells you how to perform whatever it is that you're looking at. Whether it's making a reading, whether it's inspecting something, whether it's checking voltage, whether it's making a wobble measurement, whether it's filling a vessel with media and heating it to temperature. It explains it in detail in the document. So we're going to go through it, give an outline, an overview of our qualification documents. That's the objective of this. They provide an outline of each section included in the documentation. What are the qualification documents? Distek is committed to providing its customers with the most consistent, traceable results needed to satisfy all the regulatory committee requirements that are out there, the committees that are out there. When performing the validation services, we use specific documents that are formed together in a binder to document tests performed, mechanical specifications, measured, maintenance performed, and inspections. We have a place for all of that in our documents. Hopefully I'm going to be able to go over all this with you so you understand it better. Binder. When I'm talking about a binder, I'm talking about usually in a binder like what you see, what I gave you, the hardcover, those documents will be inserted inside of it, much like these are right here. This is what I'm talking about with a binder. We call the binder the entire document. So that, what I gave you in the little packets that has different sections in them, that's the binder. It would go into one binder. That binder can consist of different components. It can consist of the IQ, which is the installation qualification, or initial qualification, if you want to call it that. It can be the MQ or OQ. Listen, just so you understand how our documents are written. When I say MQ, I'm talking about a mechanical qualification on a bath. We only have MQ for the bath. It used to be OQ, but today, in 2015, Distek, MQ is only specific to a bath, a Distek bath. The reason we did that because the operational qualification is something that can be measured on our accessory equipment for the bath, which is the auto sampler, which is the vessel washer, which is the easy fill. Those all have OQs, not MQs. They're the same thing. Operational qualification, mechanical qualification. We changed it because there were some labs here in the United States that were complaining that inside their USP, the way it's written, the OQ that we used to perform wasn't encapsulated, it didn't say MQ. And it calls for you performing an MQ in the document, in the USP documents. So we changed our verbiage on how we do things with the baths, and we decided to call the acronym an MQ, mechanical qualification, which is what it is. You're doing a mechanical qualification, make sure the mechanical aspects of it are good, and then we do a PQ, performance qualification, which is the performance verification test. That's the chemical test. So we do a mechanical test, and we do a chemical test, performance test. The operational qualification is what we're talking about with other equipment, so we don't have to worry about doing mechanical and a chemical test, because we don't do chemical tests on vessel washers and easy fills. So we got MQ can be, these are the different sections that are in it. IQ, MQ, OQ, and PQ for the PVT, the performance verification test. After initial setup and qualification, the system would also need periodic preventive maintenance, PM. This binder is organized based on the actual tasks that need to be performed. That's how all these binders are put together, in that particular order. And when I say it's put in an order that it needs to be put in, first and foremost, we have general protocol. That's the first section. I gave you guys all a copy of whatever system you're working on. General protocol, GP. That includes all the procedural notes, customer review, approval forms, and whatnot.
Amendment of amendment form.
Pardon?
Amendment of amendment form.
It has that in there also. Well, again, it goes through and talks about all the different things, how this is laid out, how the document is laid out, kind of what I'm telling you right now. This is for the customer to look at it. They have a preview or a review process prior to you doing any work. They're going to read through that and they're going to see how these documents are laid out. That's what this whole general purpose, GP, is for. So it talks about how the document is laid out. So we can go through it. The general protocol is always included in the binder. So no matter what you do, if you do just a PM on the unit, it'll have a GP and a PM in it. The general purpose goes with everything. If you're going to do an IQ, MQ, it'll have a GP, IQ, MQ in the document. If it's going to be, if it's just an MQ, it'll be a GP and an MQ. It's always going to have the general purpose portion of the document is going to be included with it. Reason being, it has, the general purpose has certain things in it. It has all the procedural notes, all the amendments, all the addendums that could be added to it, and it's got a place for the serial number of the unit that you're working on, the location of the customer. All that's included in the actual executable portions of the form. And we'll get into how that's laid out also. Just so you understand, the general protocol is always, the GP is always included with every document. In addition, depending on the service to be performed, such as IQ, MQ, PM, a separate document is included for each protocol that's applicable. So no matter what it is that you're doing, it's going to have its own section. That's the way we have the documents laid out. So it could possibly have an IQ, could have an OQ, could have an MQ, could have a PM, could have all of them, depending on what services are being performed. And as I said, down here an example. Example, an IQ MQ service binder will have the general protocol, the IQ protocol, and the MQ protocol. So as you see, the general purpose is included with every single document, always. No matter what qualification you're doing, it will have a GP, a general protocol, attached to it. Page number and section cover page. Each protocol and sections thereof start with a fresh number beginning from 1 or I. Each section has a section cover page as the first page. The page numbers also have 2 or 3 character prefix indicating the pertinent information. IQP-5 is the 5th page of the IQ procedure, hence the acronym IQP. So it'll be laid out this way, that way you can follow what page. You can always look down and see whether or not you have pages missing, if they're not included. This is very important because we've had customers ask, well, what if a page falls out? How do we know we're missing one? Well, they're numbered at the bottom, and it follows a logical train of thought. So if if IQP5 is missing, it goes from 4 to 6, obviously a page is missing. There's a way of being able to tell that it's missing by following through all the numbers. IQF3 section is the 3rd set page of the IQ folio section. This facilitates collating as desired. The page numbers are in the footer on each page. So that the footer note of each page has the actual page number. And by reading it, you should be able to see where it falls into the document. Text and executable pages. There's a difference. Text only. Text only, it's telling you how to do something. So if it says text only at the bottom of the page, that's something you need to read to know how to go about doing the qualification, and or how to perform whatever the service it is that you're performing, or maybe it's discussing the amendment, the addendum, or how the document is laid out. If it's an executable page, something needs to be entered on that page. That means data has to be entered. So any page that needs to be written on is an executable page. So if you look at the bottom of the page, you'll see where it says text only, nothing needs to be written there. It's only for review and to read how to do the procedure. The executable page, you need to open it up, and that's where you'll see any blank spaces that need to be filled out for doing the qualification. The general protocol is always, as I said before, included in every binder. I can't stress that enough because, again, this has happened before. We get so many people that go out and they're doing an IQ and they figure they can just do the IQ section and they're done with the document. It's not. General purpose is important. And I'm going to put one up there and we can follow through on each one of your documents. But again, the customer information goes down on page 1 of the executables of the general purpose. The second page is for any addendums or amendments that may go along with a particular qualification. What I mean is a blank spot for any additional amendments that may want to be instituted by a particular client's SOPs. Some clients that you go to, some customers that you go to, I'm not sure, I know how it is here in the States, so I'm saying I don't know how it is where you all work at, but some customers have their own way of going about doing things, and they want that written down into the document. That's where the amendments particular page is empty, blank. You can either NA it, or you can fill it out as applicable to the customer site that you're going to. So you can write down an individual SOP. Maybe perhaps they want to test their temperatures at 37 and 40 degrees. You can write that down in this amendment and you can execute it as follows. As well as outline how Distek binders are put together, it also includes a list of customer responsibility as well as Distek certified technicians' responsibilities. In the written portion of that, it talks about how what we're expected to do and what the customer's responsibility is. Hence, things like storing the document, taking care of the document, making sure that they keep a copy of it on hand for whatever regulatory commission may come out and inspect their facilities They're in charge of the document. It goes through it, and we're gonna look at it, I'm gonna put it up on the board. I'm just giving you the outline of how this works. These are pre-approved sections that need to be filled out prior to beginning anything. I don't know how it is in the laboratories that you go to. Most laboratories here in the United States, most companies we go to, want the pre-approval section filled out prior to starting any services. However, there are some laboratories that are a little bit more lackadaisical with their SOPs, and they tell you to go ahead and start without having any signatures on it. Every laboratory is different. I'm there to do what the customer wants, so I'll do usually what they want us to do. But that section is there for them to pre-approve the document. Most labs that I go to like a copy of our document before we even get on site, because they want to look at it from their own QC department to make sure that everything's valid in the document before they want us to execute it to begin with. That section, the pre-approval section in the GPs, is important. That's why the GPs are included with every document. It also has a final review and approval section to be completed when the unit's validation is complete. That's at the back of your documents. There's a couple of pages I left at the back of the document. That's part of the GP. Here, when we do our qualifications here in the States, it's the ones that don't have it, the last 4 pages that don't have a clip on it. And it's just the final forms, and it talks about that's the final approval state. That's part of the GP also. I usually look at the back of the document, that way it shows that the entire validation has been completed and is passed. The installation qualification, the IQ section. I gave you guys all one of them for whatever systems you guys all have. Ensuring that a dissolution system is received in good condition. The IQ will verify the system meets factory specifications, as well as certifies the system is set up and installed correctly, works properly after shipping, works in the right environment, is ready for operational qualifications and performance qualifications. It goes out with every brand new unit, the IQ. It basically is a checklist. It is very, a couple of our documents I think have voltage measurements you might have to take. But basically it's a checklist just to make sure that the unit has arrived in one piece. It comes on, it appears to be functioning properly, nothing's broken, all the boxes have been checked to make sure that they're empty. That's part of the IQ. Basically just it's mirroring what it left here in one condition, to put into a box, and when you take it out of the box, hypothetically, it's supposed to be in one piece and working the same way. The mechanical qualification. That's the biggie, that's the one that takes the longest. The purpose of performing mechanical qualification is to ensure that a Distek dissolution system is functioning properly and that all the critical physical and mechanical parameters that are within acceptance criteria set forth in the USB toolkit procedure and or the ASTM 2503.13 standard. I don't know what regulations monitor what you do in the countries that you're servicing your equipment at, but we all perform by USP standards here in the United States, and we use the USB toolkit procedure and or the ASTM. 2 different ways of validating. About 5 years ago, a lot of laboratories got together and were complaining about the way the calibrator tablets were, that USB was kind of, I don't know, monopolizing the industry, making everybody adhere to their particular standards. So the FDA came out with, partnered with ASTM and came out with a mechanical qualification, hence the ASTM 2503-13. It basically is a tighter specification mechanically, because in their mind they figured if you have a tighter mechanical specification on a set dissolution bath, that theoretically, chemically, it should work automatically. So they came out with a competing standard, so to speak, that doesn't require any calibrator tablets. Here in the United States, the industry is split about 50%, 50-50. About half the labs still do it according to USB and do chemical drops, performance verification tests with the calibrator tablets. And about half the laboratories have now switched to the ASTM or enhanced mechanical qualification, which is strictly mechanical, no chemical testing involved. I don't know how it is in your own individual areas that you service equipment at, but that's what they do here. We have that capability in our documents. If you do this document, it will cover ASTM and or USB standards. So our document will cover both sides of the fence. This also will certify the MQ that the physical and mechanical performance of the system is satisfactory and that the system is available for further validation, the PQ, or routine use. You can, if it's a mechanical qualification, they can go strictly right into using it when we're done with the MQ after they go through their SOPs and they prove it. Or it's now ready to do the performance verification test. But we're testing all the mechanical capabilities of the unit, hence the mechanical qualification. This is the pass-fail. This is all the specifications that are going to get measured with our devices that we use, our hand tools, and this is how the document's laid out. OQ, as I said before, kind of like the MQ, only the MQ is centric to BAS. The OQ is only for our other equipment. The Easy Fill, the auto sampler, the vessel washer, not the BAS. We call it mechanical qualification for the BAS, we call it OQ, operational qualification for other equipment. Preventive maintenance. Purpose of performing the PM is to ensure that the system continues to operate in a proper manner and is in good condition. We'll verify that the system receives recommended checks and any adjustments as laid out for each action activity in this qualification, progressively documents the critical steps performed and inspections made. We'll also certify that the system is ready for further qualification. Typically, we go out every 6 months. If you get a brand new unit, you install it, you do an IQ, MQ on a bath, and a PVT if required. Typically, every 6 months here in the States, we biannually qualify the unit. So when you return, you don't do an IQ on a return unit. The only time you do an IQ is it's brand new or the unit has been moved. So when you come back out again, you're going to want to do a preventive maintenance, which is a 6-month inspection, lubing, checking parts to make sure that nothing's broke, kind of an inspection list that you go down and check. But there are some things you need to take off, covers need to be taken off, inspections need to be made, lubing and oiling needs to take place. Just to make sure it's in good repair, that it's working properly, that you don't see anything that in the next 6 months that may trip it up and cause it to have any problems. We're going to go through that when we do each one of the units. We're going to work on each one of the units, and I'm going to show you how to do the PMs on each one of the units. Performance verification test. First established in 1978, the PVT is a routine test used in most pharmaceutical laboratories. Again, as I said before, some of the laboratories are doing PVTs, chemical testing. Some laboratories are doing mechanical tests. The industry is split right now. I'm hoping they all go mechanical because it's easier to do a mechanical qualification than it is to do chemical testing. I'm sure if any of you are doing any of the chemical testing, you've seen some of the issues and problems that crop up with performing the calibrator tests. They're getting harder and harder to qualify because the calibrator tablets seem to have, I don't want to say they have issues with them because I can't say that. USP sells them and I don't have any data to back up that there's a problem with the calibrator tablets. But we've been having some challenges in passing the new lot of calibrator tablets. So I don't know if you guys are seeing the same results if you're doing the chemical testing. If you're not, then hey, God bless you. I'm happy that you're not having to do it because it's become quite a pain in the butt. But this is here, we have an actual document for the PQ, the PVT. This test ensures the system is working properly and both verifies and certifies the instrument meets system suitability test requirements per USB 711 guidelines using the USB calibrator tablets and the reference standard. So we actually make the chemical drops. So we actually drop tablets, prednisone, pull a 30-minute sample at each position, test it with a UV against a reference standard to make sure that it passes within a certain specification as specified and outlined by USB 711. The validation services that we provide, that you provide, Distek Validation Service Group utilizes highly skilled chemists and technicians that undergo comprehensive training and certification in all aspects of validation services. Our product is our people, each of which has an unparalleled commitment to both customer service and assuring that the instrument is performing according to industry specifications. I want to throw up one of the documents up there on the board. Those are the tests that get performed. Again, the different standards that are applicable, FDA, ASTM 250313 standard. USB has the mechanical calibration and the performance verification test, which is the calibrator tablets. USB 711, 724, 1092, and 1094 all encapsulates what we're doing with the mechanical and the chemical testing of each one of the apparatuses. So if you have any time on your hand, or you want to be thoroughly bored even more than my conversation up here, you might want to pull out USB and read some of those chapters. It's dry as you can see. I don't know if you've ever read it and looked through it, but it's there, and it's very well specified in each one of those. I'm gonna put the document up on there, and we can go through it and start looking at some of these.